Well, hello everybody and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make a quadruple chocolate loaf cake. This is from a recipe by Nigella Lawson, which I actually made about 11 years ago, twice. And my niece enjoyed it so much and she's been asking for it ever since that I do it again. So I thought I would do it now and make a video. It's not a difficult recipe. And when it says quadruple chocolate, it actually simply means that I'm going to use some chocolate, dark chocolate, and then some cocoa powder. But I'm also going to make a chocolate syrup and then some chocolate pieces to go inside the cake and more to go on top of the cake. But it's still only chocolate and cocoa powder basically. But it should be very, very tasty. It certainly was from my memory, even though I'm not a great lover of chocolate cake. So we start off, and I've preheated my oven, or I'm preheating my oven to 170 degrees Celsius, 150 Celsius with a fan, 325 Fahrenheit. And I have lined a £2 or a 900-gram loaf tin with aluminium foil, which I have greased the inside of as well. And I've made sure there's lots of foil overlapping the sides because I'm going to unfold that later when we want to pour the syrup onto the baked cake. So I'll go on to the ingredients. And for this I have 200 grams, which is 1 1/3 cups of plain flour. I have 275 grams, 1 cup plus 6 tablespoons of caster sugar. I have 2 large eggs, which would be extra large in the USA. I have 3 grams, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 80 millilitres, a third of a cup of plain yogurt. Nigella's recipe says sour cream, but I've got yogurt, so I'm using that. I have 50 grams, half a cup of cocoa powder, 175 grams of chocolate chunks, that's about 1 1/4 cups, and I've got a combination of little pieces of milk chocolate and little pieces of a dark chocolate. I have 175 grams, 3/4 of a cup plus half a teaspoon of unsalted butter, which is soft. And I should say all these ingredients are at room temperature. I have 15 millilitres, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and one ingredient which won't be at room temperature but which will be boiling when I need it is 125 millilitres, half a cup plus 1 teaspoon of water. So I will have that boiling when I need it. And then for the syrup, which is going to go onto the top, I have 100 grams, half a cup of caster sugar, about 4 grams, 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder, about 30 grams, 1 1/2 tablespoons of chocolate, and 120 millilitres, half a cup of water. So that's all the ingredients, and we need to mix all of these ones together into our batter. And just as we start, I'm going to put my baking soda into my flour and give that a mix around to get that mixed through a little bit. And then I'm going to do everything in my stand mixer. You could do it in a hand mixer, you could do it by hand if you wanted to. And so I'm going to put my flour into the bowl of my mixer. That's got the baking soda in already, remember. And I'm going to put my cocoa powder in as well. and my sugar, and the butter, and my egg, which I have beaten. That's the 2 large eggs, or extra large in the USA, and my vanilla extract, and my yogurt, and then I'll put my beaters in, and I'm going to mix those together. Nigella's words in her recipe says blitz them until they're all smooth into a smooth chocolatey batter. But I'm just going to mix mine gently and get those mixed in. And with that mixed in, I'm going to keep the mixer running, and I'm going to gradually pour in my just boiled water. And I'm simply going to mix that until it's all mixed together smoothly. And that took virtually no time at all. So I'm going to then add in my chocolate, but I'll take the bowl off the stand mixer and stir the chocolate in. So with the bowl off the mixer, I'm going to put my chocolate in. I'm just going to stir that a little bit to get that mixed through. That's good. And then we need to put that into our prepared loaf pan. So I'm simply going to pour that into my loaf pan and scrape down my bowl. And with that in the tin, I'm just going to give it a bit of a shake, like that. And I'm going to put that into my oven. And I should say that I have a baking tray heating up in the oven as the oven preheats. I should have said that. So when I put the oven on to preheat, I put a baking tray in as well. I'm now going to stand this on that baking tray, and I'm going to bake it for about an hour until it rises up quite nicely and it will split along the top. And then once it's baked for about an hour, I'm going to take it out and go on with the syrup, but it will work on the syrup as this bakes. So as my loaf cake is baking in the oven, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my chocolate into a saucepan along with the sugar and the 120 millilitres of water. and my little bit of cocoa powder. And then I'm going to heat that and let it boil, giving it a good stir from time to time until it reduces into a nice syrup. So the chocolate will melt, the sugar will dissolve, and as it reduces it will become syrupy. Now you don't need to watch that because that's just basically going to happen on the heat. So I will show you that once my cake is out of the oven and we're ready to use the syrup. I baked my quadruple chocolate loaf cake, and I actually baked mine for 1 hour and 10 minutes. After an hour it was still slightly jiggly on the top in the centre, so I thought that will collapse if I take it out, so I left it for a further 10 minutes. Then I tested it with a skewer, which came out pretty clean, so I'm confident that it's baked all the way through. So I'll show you what it looks like now. So here it is, this is the top, and I've actually lifted the sides of my aluminium foil, and here is my syrup, which I have reduced, and it's quite thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a skewer to poke some holes randomly into the loaf. Just like that. And then I'm going to pour my syrup over it, and it's going to run around the edge. That will be absolutely fine, but I'll go over the top to start with. And that's good, and I'm going to leave that for it to cool down. Now I'm going to let it cool completely before I take it out of the tin, but as it's cooled a little bit, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take just a little piece of chocolate like this, and I'm going to grate it or make some shards and put it on the top, and then that syrup will help those shards or gratings stick to the top of the cake. So I'll come back when I'm ready to do that. So my cake is still warm, but the top has cooled just a little bit, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chocolate, and I have here my potato peeler, and I'm simply going to use that to scrape off some little shards of chocolate, and those shards will melt a little bit, but they will still obviously stay on top of the chocolate, on top of the cake, and then as the cake cools it will firm up again. So I'm going to leave that now until it is completely cool, and that's going to take a good couple of hours, and once it's completely cool I will come back and we will have a taste of it. Well, my quadruple chocolate loaf cake is just about cool. It's slightly warm still, but I've taken it out of the tin and out of the aluminium foil, and it's very, very moist, as it would be because of that syrup which we poured over it, which is now sunk into it, and then the chocolate which is melted inside. That will firm up slightly as it cools even further. But I'll show you what it looks like. And I've cut a slice, and the chocolate that I put onto the top of it in little flakes has melted onto the top, and that will firm up as well. So as you can see, I've got this slice here, which is, you can see the melted chocolate here and where it's seeped in. So I'll have a taste of this piece. I'm not the greatest fan of chocolate cake, I have to say, but this is very, very good. It's rich. But the cake is nice and soft, and then that chocolate is gooey and unctuous. So this is a Nigella Lawson recipe. I varied it very slightly because I used yogurt rather than sour cream, for instance. But very, very good indeed. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen, there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe. And I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.